Hi everybody, Michael Stever here for the Saturday Nightmares wonderful horror expo at the Jersey City Landmark Lowe's. Wonderful theater. This is your first time at this theater, Roy Frumkes?
It is Roy Frumkes' second time at the theater. The first time was last Wednesday when Mike Lisa asked me to come out and walk through it to get a feeling, since I was going to be part of the presentation, not just have a table, you know. And at that time he had this loony idea that I was going to jump off the stage and interview the people in the audience. That was not going to happen, you know. But I was amazed by this. I grew up, and there were still quite a few of the old palaces, and there are now very few. In fact, I managed one in Mamaroneck, New York, when I got out of college, and it was an old movie palace, and there was a 3-room apartment under the balcony for the manager to live in, which they gave me.
Have you seen the colossal maze of underground tunnels and fallout shelters downstairs?
No.
It's just as big. If not, you could get lost downstairs.
Oh my God, I'd love to see that, really. And yeah, in the old days, the film theaters were one of the designated fallout shelters in every town, because it was like the hub of the town, and it was this big structure with underground. I would have loved to have gone down here 10 years ago and see if there were posters lying around, you know?
Well, I understood at one point there were. But speaking of posters, I know have you got a poster for your film, The Definitive Document of the Dead?
No, I'm actually talking with artists about that. I'd like to come up with something representational. The past releases of the film have always had pictures, you know? But I think I'd love to do something like George walking like the zombie. You know, he does that during the first part. He's walking
Your
like
stop motion piece, yes.
Yeah.
We had a screening, and I very, very much enjoyed it. A wonderful film.
I'm glad. I tried to, wrap it up with some unusual things. I can tell you that 32 years ago, when I was on the set of Dawn, I was the only one on that set that didn't belong there, you know. And now, when I went to visit, let's say, Diary of the Dead, one day there were 3 other documentary crews. Like every day they were inundated. So it's changed so greatly, mainly because of DVD, that I had to rethink what this last chapter would be if I was going to have things in it that were unique, you know? It couldn't be those on-the-set things anymore.
Well, you did start out as I mean, had there ever been a pie-in-the-face zombie prior to you in that film?
No.
I think you were the groundbreaker where that goes.
Yeah, well, again, that was George. You know, we went up there. We were this little crew that was told to stay 100 feet away from him. But my DP was a Marine commando in Vietnam. He was in the Tet Offensive. And he said, I'm not taking this. Let's go. And he grabbed the crew, and they were on their bellies going across the mall. And George, like, caught sight of them.
I can't believe it. He's still here.
I'm trying to leave. It's Godfather 3.
I can't fucking believe it. Where's Michael?
Yes.
Where's Michael?
I keep trying to leave, and they drag me back.
We got him before he head out.
Yeah, so George, since Dawn, in his eyes, was a war film with a horror overlay, he loved that we were doing these combat maneuvers, and he brought down the veil and let us just do whatever. Then came the pie in the face. Then, months later, when he was editing it, and I didn't have enough money to go back, I called Michael Gornick, his DP, and said, would you just shoot one 400-foot roll of 16? And George was editing, and so knowing it was for me, he edited the scene of me with the pie. You know, I mean, it was, what a sweet guy.
Absolutely.
That's...
You know, I'm not sure if I'm going to get a chance to do a sit-down with him, so I'll ask you, as you're probably the one to ask. You know, the social commentary with regards to his films is legion, and what he's trying to say. Would it be an overgeneralization to say that the zombies are the Republicans and the humans are the Democrats?
He certainly was, you know, from that era, you know. I mean, Night Riders is like a hippie's last dream fantasy, you know. So yes, he's liberal, but as he mentioned last night during the panel, the whole thing with Dwayne, with a black protagonist getting killed and thrown, was not intended. They were driving down, I guess, to New York to show it to a distributor when it was announced that Martin Luther King had been killed, and they all said, my God, that ending means something else now.
Took on a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
I was mentioning earlier, I really enjoyed the time that you gave in Document of the Dead, your film, showing the repeated takes of the metronome drop and the guy's chest, and the painstaking time and laborious, effort that went towards that. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I felt bad because the film had been going along pretty smoothly till I arrived. I have been the Romero jinx, actually, and he's been very good-natured about it. But I was lucky because it gave my documentary tension and dramatic structure. And usually with documentaries, as opposed to narratives, you're totally at the mercy of the material. You know, and if it's not interesting or there's no conflict or the personalities aren't great, you don't really have much of a film. But there I arrive, and things are going wrong. And we're seeing everyone, you know, we're seeing Tom's hair start to not be perfectly coiffed, sweat appearing, you know. George, on the other hand, was...
Tom Savini or Tom the...
George, on the other hand, was trying to break a cigarette habit. So he's using a yo-yo, and I had two cameramen, and I said, one on the makeup and one on the yo-yo. And it's like, yeah, and it's so whenever George, you know, when they do the thing, and they're saying, is it a good take? And he's saying, no. He does the, you know, so it just became a wonderful, you know, kind of rhythmic thing to use so that my audience wouldn't get bored watching a whole day pass inexorably while they tried to get that shot.
Well, that effect is so graphic, and just, you know, I grew up loving prosthetic makeup effects and have a very, very soft spot in my heart for it. You know, I've got a bit of a mixed bag with regards to CGI, and my eyes tend to there tends to be a battle that ensues when I'm watching something that's heavily done in CGI. I start trying to discern what's real from what's not, and it takes me out of the piece, oftentimes.
10-year-olds, same thing. Everyone is hip to that. It is wondrous what it is, but it does have its negative, you know, that kind of backlash thing. I produced, as you know, and wrote a film that was all prosthetic effects, which was Street Trash. And one of our three key makeup guys, Scott Coulter, seeing the writing on the wall, he went to Bulgaria and opened the largest CGI, I guess, house probably in Eastern Europe. And he does all the Sci-Fi Channel stuff, and he did Rambo, you know, all 605 shots, all those explosions and all, none of them happened on set. You know, he's great at it. And he emailed me at one point and said, send me Street Trash, I'll fix it up for you. And I said, you are mistaken about that. It's
good for you.
It's fine. But on the other hand, on the set of Diary, I saw that they did not have a huge budget, and that when some of the squibs and things weren't working, I saw George making the decision to CGI them. It was purely a budgetary thing, and on low-budget films, it is probably, in an odd way, a godsend, not to overuse it.
Well, I watched some of those squib things on Diary as well, and they're not overly distracting.
It's because it's not, you know, it's not
taking up the whole focus.
CGI process, you know. I mean, look, some of my favorite CGI stuff, you really don't know what's happening. In the film Reversal, the penetration stuff, that's all CGI'd. I mean, you know, and it's 20 seconds, you know, but it's really important. And it's a horribly violent scene, and that just makes it seems like it's sexually explicit, but it wasn't there, you know. So I like CGI discreetly used. Now I'm getting ready to maybe do a remake of Fiend Without a Face.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was a film that had, you know, like rudimentary, but actually very creative stop-motion photography. And I know I'm going to be using some CGI in there. I know I'm going to be using animatronics and some prosthetics and CGI. So we'll see how it balances out.
Well, that's what I'm noticing with a lot of filmmakers, good filmmakers nowadays, is they are trying to pay homage to both or find a nice cross-section of both. Like in Underworld. Did you see Underworld?
Yes.
The filmmakers were really adamant about wanting to create a cross-section of prosthetics mixed with CGI, which I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
Luckily, I did too. I don't have to disagree with you on that.
Mr.
Also, you know, planning a Street Trash 3, and that also is going to mix and match, I imagine. But I think with that, the fans and all wouldn't dare let me do CGI. You know, like, you know, they would allow you know, a moderate amount, but they wouldn't let me get away with not doing the prosthetics. So I have to budget for that. I mean, on Street Trash, we were getting maybe 1 or 2 shots a day.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Well, I really appreciate you coming back up and taking some time to sit down with me.
Oh, a pleasure. I've been looking forward to it all weekend. There have been rumors of it, you know, sightings of you in the distance.
I'm making the rounds with my camera. Thank you so much, Mr. Frumkes.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.